Now, this is going to be an open forum. We're going to talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked. And I'm going to share some stuff that I've picked up over the years, as well as some of the stuff that I've done for researching, especially for community clubs. So hopefully we can uh, share some stuff.
Understandable. And I'm apparently having technical difficulties, but I can hear you.
Well, that's great because I was hoping that you would be able to share. Because Francisco, she's part of the uh, Children's Hospital. So it's kind of a corporate group, but it is also open to people in the area. And why I'm really excited that she was able to join us is because they have open houses. And before COVID, their open houses were awesome. I mean, they would attract lots and lots of people from some of the creative stuff that they did. So I was hoping that she would be able to share a little bit about how they went about organizing open houses and how they got the word out, etc.
So I'm not sure I will be the right person for our club because that happened before I joined. But I
Ah,
know what we've done since I know we've had so open houses and typically before COVID. All right, were you ready? Were you ready for me to tell you about this already, or were you waiting for
yeah,
something else?
please go ahead.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
getting
so
started.
before COVID, I know that we had kind of like a not an agreement, but we were always involved with our benefits fairs for the hospital. So that happened every year for benefits enrollment, and we had a table there to show you what other options and perks you had to be an NCH employee, and that's kind of how we got the word out at some of those. And then also we had some flyers, and someone would come and speak a little bit at the new hire orientation, which happened every other week, I believe, at the hospital. And for the open houses, that's kind of how I joined our club. They had an open house, and it was in our, I think it's promoted in our email newsletter that employees get each month. And they just had a date and a time that we could come and ask questions. And at the end of it, they gave you an application. And it wasn't a full meeting, so there was some time for you to meet, or talk one on one with either a member or an officer to get a little bit more information. But I'm not sure how many of those were done before I joined the club. I joined maybe a year before COVID, but since then we've hosted open houses virtually because that's how we meet right now. Because the hospital has had some rules in place about how many people can congregate in a room, and hopefully those will be lifted soon so we can meet in person again. But it also takes a while for us to get rooms reserved. The hospital's pretty, I guess I should say, meeting rooms are very in high demand. So it might take a year for us to be able to reserve a room again on a regular basis and have a recurring location instead of switching all around different rooms and making things confusing for folks. But our open houses have been pretty good. Had pretty good turnout. It's just we've had some challenges with getting people to come back and want to join the club. There's a lot of people who join for the open house because we've had some themes like how to improve your interviewing skills or how to what was the other one? I think it was how to do better work presentations, but we haven't we've struggled with getting people to actually join the club. We have great turnout for open houses, but we're just trying to keep them interested and become actual members.
Yeah, I wasn't going to focus on that because I know there'd be lots of people in the room when I would attend the open house. But then, unfortunately, I didn't see the numbers in your reports. But
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of interest. Hard to keep the sale or close the sale.
Yes.
All right, are you able to see everybody who's on?
I think so. Are there four of you? Or five of us together?
Right,
Mhm.
I was just going to share something, and so I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that you could see. That's all.
Yes, I'm just
Good.
having trouble with my camera and I had some trouble with the audio a few minutes ago too.
All right, that's fine. Anyone have some questions about the open houses? You both went off mic, but then you didn't say
No,
anything.
I was going to say that we've had over the past probably 6 months, a year, people that'll reach out, and Mark is the one who gets the emails saying they're interested and going to come to a meeting, and then they just don't show up. And even I've reached out after he sends something to try to have a second person say, hey, look forward to seeing you. And then, they don't show up, and that's kind of rough. And then we did have a couple of new people. I'm trying to think of timing wise. Mark probably might remember, or Lenroy. Then all of a sudden we had a number of people that were popping in. We had that one woman who had been a member, but then she came back. She was having computer troubles, but she was all excited to be kind of helping to get new members. And then all of a sudden she just disappeared. Just kind of interesting. Somebody else had been working remote, then got a job, and they got called to be in, so they're not available at the time. So I guess there's just a lot of things that seem to interfere, I would say.
Yeah, usually touch base with people twice after they contact us, like right away and then for a meeting. But yeah, we haven't had much response from that for some reason.
And they haven't given any kind of indication what they're looking for, what they need, why.
They have interest in Toastmasters. They've heard about somewhere. Like I basically don't have much back and forth email with them or interaction with them, but they usually thank me for the information oftentimes and say they'd like to attend the next meeting. But I don't hound them after 2 times. I don't. Maybe I should more, but
it's a fine line.
If they don't have initiative to come after they've reached out, I mean, you can't drag somebody in. So
I know for my home club, we're kind of hybrid, but not. I can't use the word hybrid now. It's because I instantly think we have some people in and some people virtual. But when I was trying to use the hybrid, it's much like the Children's Hospital. We have a corporate sponsored, but we're open to the community. And so every once in a while I will get a community person who will say they want to join the club or join a meeting. And the issue is we're in a secure building. So if you come to our club, while you're welcome, you have to go to the security desk, you have to be escorted to the room, and there's a lot of hoopla with that.
it's almost celebrity status.
I hadn't thought about it like that,
Yeah.
but I think that's a good selling point.
That's the positive spin. We only allow certain people in, and you're one of them.
We'll get your name on the list.
Yeah. One thing our club is going to struggle with too, like we are still on Zoom, but currently, like I'm from Wayne County. Noah, I'd have to look up his address. I think he's local too, but like the majority of our members are outside the area where they would travel. So we're really stuck. I mean, I know maybe possibly go to a hybrid meeting, but we just don't have the numbers. We're struggling number wise, and I don't want to say we're on our last gasp here, but we can't hardly have meetings anymore to fill the roles.
Well, I know last time I was there, nobody was from Wayne County. Everybody was in a different county, but
we even have some people they still stick with us even though they're out of state. Thank you, Lenroy, very much.
Well, and I was hoping Mount Vernon would join us as well, because Mount Vernon has done a wonderful job over the last couple months where they partner up with other clubs. So they're struggling with numbers as well. But what they've done is they've reached out to their neighbors and they've said, hey, for the meeting in April, can we partner up with you? And then they divide up the roles. And then suddenly, instead of struggling to fill roles at the beginning of the meeting, they have a full agenda, in which case they can really promote it and try and get more people, more guests, and they put on a good show. Because a lot of times that's what's the issue.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I'm the president of Mount Vernon.
Great.
And so we've actually been partnering with clubs like that for more like 18 months. We started it with Thursday Night Toastmasters, which I was a charter member of. That's when we really began that process. And then also some clubs over in Chicago that we partnered with as well. And it does make it an interesting meeting. It makes it a kind of sparks, people feel good about it. And we've just continued that model. And we are at, I think, 6 members that's paid for next year right now. We lost some individuals that kind of wanted to be in person, but also at the same time, it kind of ran its course. And so we've been asking for a club coach since before the news cycle and since the news cycle. And so we've been wanting to do that. That's something that we had to agree with as a team to get help. So we were very early in the process. So hopefully, Larry, you can help us with that request. And I know that because I'm copied on that, I know that April has sent that out as a VPM at least twice, maybe 3 times this cycle. And at the end of the last cycle, we just saw that coming, that it was hard. And we do recruit, we do open houses, we follow up with those individuals. We actually tag team when someone is sent by the membership VP or the VPM. And then I have actually sent out information. We have an actual welcome packet that they're provided with, as well as the application. So we do try to really close the deal when it comes to those people that actually come. And we've had some success with doing some, open houses with other clubs as well. So those are just a few things that we've done with Mount Vernon.
Cool. All right. So other questions about these kind of partnerships or open houses that Mount Vernon has put together?
I know there was a list, or I don't know if it was for D40. There was a list where people can say if they want to give a speech or if they need a speakers. Has anyone had success with that?
I haven't, I've seen it out there. I don't know how well it's executed.
Okay.
I mean, I find it easier if I'm going to be in the area to contact the people and say, do you need a speaker? Because I'm going to be in the area. But I don't, and I always hate saying different things because I know I even mixed, for those of you, I kind of straddle the line between District 10 and District 40. So District 40 does have, there's several of us out there. So they do have a list out on the District 40 where you can say, hey, we need a speaker, or hey, I want to speak. And then clubs can bring people in to speak or get other people, just to fill out the agenda. So of course that's kind of hard to logistically put together, but I was hoping somebody was doing that. But I've also tried to volunteer to be a coach and not getting any response. So, it's a fine line, especially our trios and even Lenroy's an executive as part of District 10. he gets a lot of requests from left and right. Now, the one thing, I've already talked about coaching. Coaching has gone through a lot of scrutiny now, and it's a little more difficult to get a coach. But that difficulty is all based on a coach has to go through training, and a coach has to go through a certain a review process before they're assigned. So it's less. I mean, in the past, it was really easy to say, "Hey, I want to be a coach," and then they assign it to the club. But now the club really has to fill out their side of the paperwork. The the prospective coach has to go through a training, and they have to go through a certification before they can be assigned a coach. So there's a lot more rigor to it. But I really think that that's going to create better coaches.
Yeah. There's a couple things that's kind of, we're talking about now, club coaches, and then also, I think you may have been talking about the Speakers Bureau. That's only out on the website, but we don't have a team of individuals that are working with that actually there's a pool. There's not a pool of individuals that have put in an application. I found out, I was sharing this with Larry earlier, I found out that I was actually responsible for that portion of District 10. And when I found out, I, jumped on it and started, asking, how many people we have down as speakers. And I would say, oh yeah, we have people, but actually we don't. And that's when I actually put an application in myself, since I'm responsible to see what happens. And I still haven't seen my application. But the problem with that is that we just don't have people that have volunteered to work with that committee. Number two, which is the solution to the problem, if you're interested in having someone come and speak, this is, and I put it in chat, this is the District 10 Facebook group. I haven't seen many people put in there, we need a speaker for our X meeting, not many at all. In the Toastmasters International group, where there's thousands of people put it in there, I've actually responded on there that I would volunteer to be a speaker. I know one of the clubs that I coach, successfully, well, a couple of them, but one that I'm not a member, but I still attend, it's in District 40. And if we don't have anyone sign up for the prepared speaker, the president last year decided to call it impromptu prepared speaking. And so she would, come up with a speech and how she worked on it. It was unorthodox, but nonetheless, they had a speaker, and then we had evaluators, and we filled the roles. And that club did go back in numbers and grew and continues to add individuals, to their, but they didn't let the not having a speaker stop them. It was like, we're going to have an impromptu prepared speech that someone would do, and then we would do round robins at times for the actual feedback. But it was like, we would do that. And then there are times that I know Wayne County, we would not have a speaker on, and someone would have either a speak or something that they did during the course of the month, or a class, and then they would speak about it too. And that was another way, again, to be kind of solution oriented with it. But I would suggest, if you don't do it those two ways, do it by just posting in there. And then, the people that are here today, and I'll put my email in there and phone number, and by all means, if I'm available, I'll come and do a speech to help a club out that's trying to either do their meetings or an open house, either or. So I would be willing to do that.
Well, and you highlighted, and I was actually hoping that Marion Club is also a community club, and they're kind of struggling. They used to have success in the fact that they were associated with Marion Technical College, and they got professor backing. And so in your professional development and classes, business classes, etc., they had to do a lot of presentations. And so it was good to have that kind of connection with the university so that when they started handing out the syllabuses and they'd say, you're going to be doing 8 presentations during this period, they would also caveat that by saying, hey, there's a Toastmasters club that meets every other week. It might be in your best interest to partner up with them. It's a great place to practice your presentation skills. And so they attracted students. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times students, they're transient. They're there for those 8 months and then they disappear for the summer and they don't come back periodically. But for those 8 months, you had a lot of energy, you had a lot of new ideas, and so that was always great. So I was hoping that they would be here to talk about those kind of things, because the other thing that they had started just before the shutdown was they had reached out to the Rotary clubs and the 4-H clubs, and they were starting to partner up with them by providing speakers to those types of events and meetings. Not only talk about subjects that these places wanted to hear about, but then also given 5 minutes of plugging Toastmasters at the end. And the hope was we were going to cross-pollinate, so some of their members would come over to Toastmasters, and some of ours would end up meeting with them. That all threw up in the air once everything shut down, because then, of course, you're not meeting live. There's a whole bunch of different things that go there. But I'm hoping now that we're getting into that situation, because now Marion has one of their meetings that is live and then one of them that is virtual. And when it is virtual, of course, everybody thinks when it's live, depending on their location, they can video conference people in. Their new location, and if you had been to the Southern Division contest, that's their new location, and they are able to bring people in that way, which is really nice. I think it's going to help their numbers to be both in person and virtual. But it still comes back out to getting connected with some of those community members and stuff. Now, I did find this. I'm going to share now. I found this article, 10 ideas for attracting new members. Invite your family and friends. Now, I'm pretty sure most of the time we've always already done that. I mean, that's the easy one. And at least, trying to get the talking up. Now, post flyers and leave magazines, bulletin boards, libraries, coffee shops, colleges, churches, retirement centers. So this goes into what I was talking about with Marion. They got involved in, colleges and various areas. Most of their memberships were people who worked at restaurants or offices, etc. So they had little ins on this. Now, of course, we've gone digital, so we don't have so many magazines. It's a little harder to throw out your stuff there. But for a while their signage was up all over the college campuses because they were meeting on campus. Now they've moved off campus. But I've also found some people, especially in this neighborhood, who are meeting in libraries. And by meeting in libraries, that's allowed them to put up signage in libraries, as well as while they're meeting in rooms that have the clear windows. And so people walking by, checking out, etc., they can see these people talking, they can see the logos, they can see kind of what the meeting's all about. And even sometimes they keep somebody out in the hall. So if somebody's slows down, they go, oh, are you interested in Toastmasters? Let me ask you some questions. But that takes members. You have to have a full people inside the room and then have somebody who can just sit out there and talk about it. Now, I was on vacation and we stopped off at this restaurant and there was a flyer saying that there was a Toastmasters a club that met every Thursday night. And I just happened to be there Thursday at lunch and I'm like, oh, wow. You know, and my wife just gave me that eye look that she can do. Because, we're on vacation. She didn't want me to run off and and be at a Toastmasters meeting. But that's, it drew my attention. Now I'm a captive audience. I see the word Toastmasters. I always, zoom in. But, if we can get some of this going on, and from my corporate perspective, I work in a 36-floored building. And every year when we have our new slate of officers, our VP of membership, as well as our VP of education, they would put their name on a flyer and we would walk down the one stairwell from the 36th floor all the way down because the break room was always on that stairwell. So we would go down each floor, put up a new flyer and all the way down. So we got a lot of word of mouth that way. Any of this you've tried? Any success? In terms of flyers?
I don't know that we've done flyers. Trying to think, I know we did at Wadsworth when I was there, but I don't think Wayne County has. There was some talk of doing it, but I'm not sure it happened.
Yeah, I don't think we did try. And I think when I first joined, which I think was a couple years ago, the meetings were on campus at the Worcester campus. And I know the one member, she worked in the library. And so I think that she was able to recruit some students that way. And unfortunately, I no longer work down on that campus since I retired. So I thought about trying to go down there and put something up, or the same idea of, go to a coffee shop and put some flyers up. However, unfortunately for timing, I just have I have way too much happening in my life right now. And so I think that's another part of our issue is at one point we had a pretty big group of people, but then slowly it was getting smaller. And once we get, you get to a point where the people that are still there just are hanging on and doing what they can, but you really need that energetic people that can be doing a lot of that type of work. Because I remember we did do the open house a couple of years ago. It was virtual. And then I don't even remember if we had anybody participate, to tell you the truth.
I don't think we
So
had,
I had a
I don't
question
think we had
of,
much response. Yeah.
how do you, as that Mount Vernon group is, partnering with another group, how do you go about and get that happening?
Well, and then Roy left, but and April was planning on joining us here in the second half, so I'll let them answer a little bit of that. I know because I'm part of the Marion Club, and Mount Vernon and April Ware reached out to me and said, "Hey, would your club be interested?" And so then I got our club interested in the idea. We selected a date, and then we divvied up the roles and put it together that way.
And
So
that was part of April's position as the vice president for education. And she would partner with that her colleague in different clubs and just reaching out, either, when they were at a meeting or just cold calling to say, hey, and then the ideal was trying to, I think when she initially did it with Thursday Night Toastmasters, it was about trying to get the schedules together, which again, that was 18 months ago. As we started doing that and trying to, again, make it a little bit more lively with different ones, and it was trying to be accommodating. And then we basically found out that you have to give and take. And so on the first time, we may go during their meeting times, and then the next time they may go on ours. And it's not necessarily a back-to-back, but the VPEs were the ones that were really doing that. I remember when we first spoke about it, the ideal of doing that, I thought, yeah, absolutely, and it was like, go for it.
How does Toastmasters International view that? If you get to, they sort of get pressure from the higher uppers as far as when your numbers go down, that they're going to pull the plug on you. Do they ever do that, or they just keep threatening you? Like if we would partner up with somebody but still only have 5 members or 4 members, how is that viewed from international office?
Well, before you get to that part of it, and I can defer to Larry, because Larry's been at a variety of levels within Toastmasters and probably can give a better answer than myself. But I would say that what we found was when we knew we had a full meeting, all positions, speakers, that was a time to invite people to come. And if we invited someone, Mount Vernon, for example, that person we would be, speaking with about joining. Now, of course, if the person decided to go somewhere else, which I had someone do that. I had a person that actually came. It was a joint meeting, and he ended up joining. He was in New York at the time. He ended up joining the other club versus that club. And then he ended up coming to another club I had because he really, really wanted kind of a college feel. And he joined that club too. So he's now in Virginia, and he's in District 40, and he's in District, I want to say it's a District 10, but I know 40 in District 10, but he moved from New York, and now he's in Virginia, and I think he's the president or VP or VPM of one of those clubs too. So it just to me is a recruiting space where you have a full-fledged meeting going on. Because Mount Vernon, we still meet, but we used to meet weekly. Now we meet twice a month, and then our meetings are on a regular Thursday night, and then we do a Thursday during lunch. So trying to accommodate for the members that can't, do it in the evening. And to Wayne County credit, they also did the same thing by instead of having weekly, went to bi-weekly meetings. So Larry, do you want to touch on kind of what happens when the numbers are not going up in the right direction?
Well, Toastmasters rule is 8. To maintain a club charter, you need 8. Now, normally, if you don't make your 8, you're just put on a list, more or less, because if you still have a couple paid members, they don't axe you right away. But then at the next dues period, they're going to review you, and then they're going to suspend you. And then 6 months later, they're going to pull your charter. So in essence, you have a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of some clubs where the member says, I don't want to be a member for 6 months. And so they wait 6 months and then they rejoin. And that's hard on everything as well.
Now, one thing we hadn't thought, I guess, about, but it did cross my mind as we were discussing, because we did go to the every other week thinking, it's a less burden if you have a smaller number. then doing it less often is nice. But we never really polled people about, hey, is Tuesday at 6 just not working well enough? And maybe, a different day, maybe a later start time, like 6:30, if somebody says they can't get home from work. I guess we had, at least from what I'm aware of, we didn't ever think of that as, maybe the timing is not right for some of the people. And that might be something to think about too.
Well, and being flexible, like Leroy said, we meet Thursday night and then Thursday at lunch.
Mhm.
Well, there is one of the aerial clubs. They meet during the afternoon, somewhere around 3, but then they also have a weekend one later. I
Mm.
mean, but to your point, I have had a club that I was mentoring that they had a lunch meeting, and it was a corporate club. And so they kept getting people saying, no, I can't even make a lunch meeting. I'm just too busy. And they ended up making it at 4 o'clock. Well, commonly people don't want to schedule meetings at 4 o'clock. So they weren't being trumped anymore. So now they're having better attendance because they moved it to 4.
Yeah, I guess it never occurred to me prior to this to think of, well, hey, maybe this time's just not working, and people might have something better that would work.
Right. The one thing I will bring up is, if you do move your meeting, make sure you change your online presence to let them know. I have had people who show up, and as guests, and suddenly that's not when they're meeting, and that's a shame. And this one club that I was mentoring that moved it to 4, I said, make sure somebody logs in at noon just in case somebody shows up, and they didn't believe me. So I went behind their back and I logged in at noon, and sure enough, a guest showed up, and I took advantage of that situation to talk all about clubs and encourage them to make the 4 o'clock. And I don't know what happened to that, but you always have to make sure that you understand what that impact is and all the things you have to do around that. One other thing I wanted to say about the this number 2 is, and down in District 40, and they don't do this anymore, and I wish they would start it up again. They had a partnership with a local radio station, and they would do an interview once a month, where district leaders would come in and they would talk for 30 minutes. And Marion had a similar setup where a very local public radio station, and every other week they had guests in and they would talk about Toastmasters. And they had a chance to plug their club at that point. That's a little high end, but word of mouth. Let's see. So 3 is ask a member of another club. We've kind of touched on that tonight. Just bringing in guest speakers. Now doing an educational model or module. That's to me that's an open house. Getting somebody that can attract attention. I've seen clubs bring in financial advisors during tough times just to try and get people to go, oh, I want to listen to this financial advisor. So they bring them into this. We've had memory people, people who are trying to sell their memory program. They'll come in and they'll talk, but it's inside a Toastmasters meeting. So you're trying to bring in into special interests from the area just to hear that speech. So it doesn't have to be a district leader or somebody from another district. It's just somebody that you think can attract non-Toastmasters as well as Toastmasters to get them involved. And that kind of leads right into a showcase meeting with a just special program. we got invited into the high schools, and we got to do a leadership program in the high schools. And what was nice about that is we also got to talk to the teachers and stuff, and we got some of the word of mouth into the teachers' minds, and they took that back to parent teacher things, and we got some leads out of that. Speechcraft, that's easier to do in a corporate environment. I say that because I do have my home club is a corporate environment, and before COVID, when everybody was in the office, we used to do a speechcraft every quarter because we could get 10 people to do the program. Now, we had horrible turnover rate. We would get maybe 2 to 3 new club members out of this program. Because of the way it was set up, it was just more of an 8-week program. And at the end of 8 weeks, they just felt that they got everything they needed out of the program. So that was a shame. But one of the success we had, because we had our members actually ran it. So our members did all the educational things, and they brought in their personal reasons for being there. And that worked out really well. So there's some good modules out there, but in a community sense, you do have to give value, and sometimes that is, and you have charge a fee, because especially in a corporate environment, sometimes it was the manager who paid for it, and so then the attendance would drop off because they didn't feel like they had skin in the game. So, but I did like this whole, charge them, but then, make it equal to 6 months of dues, and then offer them a free membership. But again, it's hard to do a Speechcraft because they recommend 8 to 10 weeks, and it's hard to get commitment for 8 to 10 weeks. Now, I have done a Speechcraft in a 2-day event. So we spent 6 hours on the first day getting them doing an educational thing and doing presentations, and then coming back the next day doing another 6 hours. I don't recommend it. It's a lot of work, but and we had an open invitation, so it was a little harder to know how many students we were going to have, and it turned into a lot of work. And again, the payoff was maybe we got 1 or 2 students who actually converted. But it's an option if you can package it up correctly. I like number 6 because in this, and it kind of goes back to what I said about libraries. If you can get into a library or some community center where you can just put up your signage and promote the heck out of it, you might get somebody from that center, or at least somebody who can we work through it. Now, you said you were meeting on campus before. So is there talk about
Yes.
getting back or going back to a location?
We've talked about it, but it's not feasible because I'm the only one in Wayne County. So it's not even a possibility really, unless we,
Virtual probably works better. We probably have a better shot at having people attend because we are spread.
even though long-term wise, we need
Mhm.
local people. We can't have, I think there has to be a core group of local people to meet in person, obviously, and for the long-term sustainability of the club.
Right. And I'm sure local businesses aren't willing to have their community room with just one person in it on a computer, at least initially. I think that'd be tough. So I guess you do have to have a core.
Well, we were meeting at the last place we met was the Red Cross, which was it was a free meeting room for us. So
That could work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So conduct an appreciation night. Yeah, that sounds like a specialized meeting. But I don't see that one actually bringing non-Toastmasters. I think that would be hard to sell to a non-Toastmaster audience. Hey, we're gonna honor this person. Now, if that person's really important to the community, then I guess that'd be a little different. Club brochure and distribute it to prospective members. Part of that would be a welcome kit. I think it's very nice to have an established welcome kit. So when you do have guests, now virtually, I think that's a little challenging. But then again, you can create an electronic copy and you can send it as part of your follow-up and your scheduling of information.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
I usually send the generic one, I don't know, from Toastmasters International, the guest packet to anybody that's asking about it. But we don't have something personalized for our local club.
Well, and I would encourage you a welcome pack that's all. I mean, the one it's out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but maybe just have a presidential cover letter. You know, have the president of your club write a generic letter that can then personalize it as part of your club.
Yeah, that will be a problem.
Uh,
We don't have a president.
yeah, I knew when I said it I was going to get burned for it, but
One of the VPs would have to.
just
And
something.
Mark, do you know anyone in the chamber? I'm reading ahead. Do you know anyone in the Chamber of Commerce in Wayne County?
I don't, I talked to them a year or so ago about, I saw in their magazine they sent out in a mailer like they were looking for speakers. So I said, you know what, I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to speak. Well, but then they said, well, no, it's just for members. You can speak if you're a member. So I don't know if they'd be open to an ad in there if you're not a member. I don't know. I'm almost thinking they're pretty inclusive, but maybe they wouldn't. But maybe they would. Or
I don't know.
unless the club would be a member or somebody in the club would be a member. I don't know.
Hmm.
But that's been a year or so ago. I talked to them.
Well, and along those lines, and I was trying to find I get an email every couple days from Meetup telling me what Toastmasters meetings are happening in the area. And at first I thought, oh, this is great because, if I have the time, I will attend one of the meetings and see what's going on and, just enjoy some time. And then it occurred to me, well, why aren't I putting my own club on that? So I did. I contacted Meetup and I put our club on it. And yeah, I've been getting one or two a month who reach out. Now, again, much like you were saying, hey, I've got an interest. Okay, well, here's our meeting schedule. This is our next meeting. We'd love to have you. Please let us know. Here's the link so that they could attend virtually. And then they don't show up. So then I send up a follow-up message saying, hey, we're sorry we missed you at this meeting. Our next meeting is at this time. Please, we'd love to see you. In the meantime, do you have any questions? Now, I could go that extra step and send a welcome kit at that point and see if I get any more.
Mhm.
There it is, Meetup. And I think there's another one out there.
Yeah, when I was part of Wadsworth, one of the members up there was passionate about Meetup, and so they started putting it on, and I don't know how, I don't use it or not familiar with it. But apparently, is it a big thing? I guess it is.
Well, it's kind of like a neighborhood. Do you have neighborhoods?
Mhm.
Next door. That's what I was trying to think of.
Oh, next story, right, right. It's like that. Oh, okay.
So it's
All right.
just hey, this is what's happening in your neighborhood.
Hmm.
So Toastmasters is an established kind of meetup group. So you just need to get your name out there, and when you meet, and then suddenly meetup just sends a note. See,
Hmm.
I scrolled past it too quickly. But yes, it just says here are the events happening over the next couple days, and it'll list all the Toastmasters meeting and when they're meeting.
Hmm.
So
Well, I could
Do you-
look into that.
Yeah, do you have to set up an account for that, or do you, I guess, how do you get your club listed on Meetup?
there's an admin.
Okay.
Okay.
See, it's Lenroy's position to know this.
Ah.
I do-
Well, it's something that one can dig into as well. Because I think I signed up or got involved, so I think I even get notices if it's that group. But yeah, I'd be willing to look into that and see, try to get us on there.
So Francisca, the um, I can't remember District 40s. It's been that long since I set it up, but then it went dormant for a year, and so I reached out and reactivated it, and that's what happened.
Okay. So
You have to pay for
You-
the membership for the chamber.
Was that you said?
Did you say you have to pay for it, Lenroy?
You pay for the membership for the chamber. What we did in
Oh, okay.
Mount Vernon, we just partnered with them because we were looking at trying to get their space. And in one of our open houses, we had the person speak from the chamber. And he was actually interested in joining prior to that. And when he spoke, he said, I do need help with my speaking, but he didn't join it. Then probably 6 or 8 months later, I think we were in pandemic.
Mm.
And they normally charge for their newsletter, but the local ones in the Worcester area may not. I know we were trying to, when we were starting up Ashlands, we were trying to get the chamber there to do some similar things as well. But you can only ask.
Mhm.
Okay. But there's no cost for meetup at this point. You can
No.
become a member and just, yeah, I'm sorry. There was some mixture there, and I wanted to clarify that. Yes, if you're trying to get in a Chamber of Commerce, there might be a fee. Meetup does not,
Yeah, we can just add you to meet up.
right? Cultural events, we kind of touched on. I know at
Mhm.
one point, District 40 would set up as part of the state fair. They had a booth. So you'd sign up as club members in Columbus, and you would go to the state fair and you'd sit there and say
Mm.
hi to people. And time commitment, absolutely. But getting any kind of cultural thing. Now, I did know that in the last deck meeting that they talked about advertising on your website and how you can do that now, as long as it doesn't conflict with the Toastmaster brand. You can get sponsorships and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So maybe a quick pro quo. So that's social media. I was talking about
Mhm.
how you can monopolize or use some of the LinkedIn's and stuff.
Mhm.
See, we have just a few more minutes. I was just showing some of the other stuff. It
I
all
was going to
comes
say I
down.
have to jump off in 2 minutes, so I didn't know if we were officially done then.
So I did. I find 100 ways to update it, but a lot of this is just different slices and flavors
Mhm.
of how to promote.
For Meetup, I'm gonna put someone name in the chat that you can reach out to, because he did training for it and set it up within the district. And I know that he's pretty gung ho about it. That's his email address. And this is his name.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring us to a close. Are there any parting questions? All right. I do thank you all for attending. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to
Yes,
send it out to a couple other clubs. Maybe I can get some more ideas and I can post some of our findings so that we can help everybody. We're all in this together.
very good.
Thank
Thank
you again
you.
for
Thank you so
sharing
much.
your
Thank you so much. Yep,
Have a good
thank you.
evening.